ado, I would like to uh, invite uh, Serik Жумангарин. Uh,
It would be nice to close the door as well. I'm going to switch back and forth to English and Russian depending on the speakers. Mr. Shumangarin, please. The floor is yours. Thank you. Mr. Moderator, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to welcome all the participants of the expert platform related to the subject under discussion. As you know, the government of Kazakhstan and the head of the state are pursuing a targeted policy to support small and medium entrepreneurship and to create the favorable business climate and the regulatory environment in our country. And supporting small and medium-sized businesses is one of the major political core components for the country, as mentioned by the head of the state. Doing business in the country is becoming more and more popular. About 871,000 small and medium-sized enterprises are actively operating, and they provide over 2.6 million people with jobs. And the country is now providing all sorts of conditions for the successful implementation of entrepreneurial initiatives. On the 27th of February this year, the head of the state made an unprecedented decision to have some cardinal measures applied to improve the entrepreneurial activity. Until the end of this year, there is a moratorium on any business inspections, and at the same time, there will be a plan to exclude regular inspections from the legal framework. There will be a revised approach towards state supervision and control in the area of business, and all permitting procedures will be systematized and automatized. There's a comprehensive plan for small and business development that has been approved. There's a concept of state regulation, and the head of the state recently signed a very important law on permissions and notifications. Until the end of the year, the uniform program to develop enterprise will be developed. At the same time, there will be certain activities underway in order to make sure we achieve the goal established by the president, which is to be in the top 30 countries in terms of doing business. At the same time, there is also the enterprise development program, the business roadmap. About 77,000 entrepreneurs were part of it. More than 600 projects have been financed, and guarantees were issued for more than 300 projects. About 200 startup projects have been implemented. About 59,000 entrepreneurs have been trained in how to do business and how to start up their own companies. Over 58,000 of new jobs have been created, and about 172,000 jobs have been retained. The government is also planning to expand the program through some of the new tools and instruments. For instance, guarantees will be provided to young entrepreneurs without any limitations by industry. Micro-lending would be also employed, and another important element is to support the entrepreneurs through the multi-level small and medium-sized business support system. And for that, in all of those 14 cities and oblast centers, Almaty and Astana and Semey, Turkestan, the entrepreneur service centers will be created. 27 centers of enterprise support are already in place, and that certainly will enable us to enhance the enterprise activity not only in the city but also in the rural areas. We're also working introducing the so-called soft instruments as well, and the priority is given to such tools as guarantees, micro-lending, grants to support the startups. Therefore, within the framework of becoming one of the countries in the top 30 most developed nations, as mentioned by the head of the state in his address to the nation. We are pursuing the addressed policy in order to improve the business climate. And I believe that the subject that we will have under discussion today for the session is very relevant and very important. I would like to wish to all of the participants a lot of success with this event, good sharing of ideas, and certainly I would like to wish success to the whole economic forum. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Now it's my honor and my pleasure to pass the floor to Mr. Mohamed Yunus, to whom we listened today in the morning, and I believe he will elaborate on the messages he had in the morning. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to continue my observations. I tried to explain how started out with the microcredit. It was focused on one village. I had no idea that this will work. And the whole thing began because of the loan sharking in the village. So I thought I cannot solve the problem of the whole world, but I can definitely solve the problem of this village. To me, it's so simple. Why don't I lend money myself? Why am I grumbling about somebody else not doing it? So I just took money from my own pocket and started lending money. And it became very popular because the people were protected from the loan sharks. So that was the beginning. And English language didn't have a word to explain what we do. So in our language, we are saying that it was a small loan, tiny loans. So we translated it as microcredit, small loan, microfinance. Now, after 38 years back, when I look at it, probably we should have called it nano credit. It's so small, even micro is big. Because my first loan was $27, total of $27, given to 42 people. Can you imagine how small that was? Even today, in Grameen Bank, the village bank which we created, our startup loan, if a poor person joins Grameen Bank, usually is $30, $40, that's about the money. So it's a very, very small amount of money. But with that, you transform the person. Someone who was dependent on the world for her living, for her survival, now for the first time she feels this thing, what she has in her hand, can give her the energy and courage to put this money in use and make income for herself. It's her own created income. That transformed the person completely. In the beginning, she was terrified whether I'm going to be able to give this money back to the bank, because she feels the bank has trusted her with such a huge amount of money. For her, it's a huge amount of money. Never saw her in her life. And holding that money in her hand is a terrifying experience for her. And in many cases, tears will roll down her eyes, and not believing anybody has trusted her with so much money. And she almost make a decision in holding that money by saying anybody who trusted her with so much money, she will give her life to make sure that trust is kept. And she works very hard so that she doesn't fail, so that she doesn't disappoint the bank, that the bank trusted her and she could not keep the trust. And she works so hard and she is successful. Today, if you repeat this story 8.5 million times, today that's about what Grameen Bank does. So each one is an independent entrepreneur who wants to create something for her. And in the beginning, again, I should mention that in the beginning, we were not focusing on women. We were simply responding, or which I was criticizing the banks in Bangladesh, that they do not lend money to women, any woman, even rich women. So they are biased towards men. Not even 1% of the borrowers happen to be women. So I thought this is totally unacceptable. So when I began, I want to make sure half the borrowers in my program are women. That's all, very simple, because I don't want to see that somebody will accuse me that you are telling them about being unfair. Now you are unfair. So I want to be fair this time, that I thought it will be 50%. But it was very hard to persuade women to borrow money, poor women, because she never handled money in her life. So it took a lot of time to try to persuade a woman to agree to take some money. It took us 6 years, but we never gave up. We always said it will happen someday. It took us 6 years to come to that 50-50 level. Then interesting things started happening to us. Money that went to the family through women brought so much more benefit to the family than the money went to the same amount of money going to the family through men. In the beginning, we were suspicious that maybe it's not right for every case. Then we saw it's repetitively the same way. Women taking money, impacting on the family, men taking money, impacting on the family. Big difference. So we said, forget about 50-50. Let's focus on women. And that became overwhelmingly women-centric activity for us, and it became 97%. We just stopped at 90. We could make it 100%. But since we started with men, we thought we'll keep some men also. So we so we have 97%. When we went, I was explaining in the morning that we went to United States, started it, it is 100% women. Today in New York City, there are 20,000 borrowers, 100% are women. Then I told you that we are invited to do it in many other cities. Every city we go, it is 100% women. And it works beautifully. It's no problem. But each one of them became entrepreneurs. She has her own business. Type of business differed from Bangladesh to United States. A typical loan in the United States would be something like $1,500. With $1,500, she thinks she can fight her way. She doesn't have to take something from others in a very bad way. She can control her life. She can move in that direction. So that's the initiation that we have. Then we are discussing here, as I was looking at the thing, about the competition. I said, I raised this question to myself. I said, what does competition mean, really? It's a competition to make money. That's the competition. So you are competing with each other how to make more money. I said, in a way that we started working, designing business to solve human problems, we have competition too among each other, but that's a competition to solve human problems. There's a big difference. One is a self-centric. It's for me. All the competition that we see is for me, which is good. This is, I'm not saying this shouldn't be done. But I'm saying at the same time, we have the ability, we have the mind, we have inside of us, hidden, because the present framework doesn't allow it to be expressed because it has no room. So I'm trying to open a window, open a door, that yes, you open your other part of yourself and create business to solve problems without having any intention to make money for yourself. And then you create those businesses, what we call social business. And you compete with the social business. You want to help get the unemployed people out of unemployment. That's your business, getting unemployed people out of unemployment. And somebody else creates the same social business to get unemployed people from unemployment, give them good income. Now there are two social businesses doing the same thing. Are they competing? Yes, they are competing. Competing to achieve the goal, which for them both have the same goal, so that we can absolutely eliminate that unemployment completely. So we want to show who does it better. But we are friends. We are not hostile to each other. We are friends. And that thing shows up on another ground. This quickly, since that is the subject today, quickly mention. I've been very critical about something called copyright. You are familiar with the copyright. I said in social business, we don't have copyright. We have copyleft. The reverse. In the money-making business, you are always hiding things to yourself, to keep it to yourself, and that's copyright and all that. But in social business, we share everything because our goal is the same. We want to do the same better. So we share with each other how it can be done. So this is, you're taking the concept from one world, translating into another world's concept. So kind of in a way, when you say copyright, I was translating in another sense. It's as a copy left, turn it around, make it happen. Then I raised another one, which I have been doing quite a bit. There are lots of patent rights, copyrights among the companies. All companies have their own patent rights because they have discovered something, or their research have done a particular formula or particular design in your system. And they protect it. Law protect them. That's fine. I'm not the intellectual property right. I'm not disputing that. My point that I raise with the companies, that companies who have been working, they have lots of those patent rights in their drawer. A company which is operating for a long time, 50 years, 60 years, 100 years, they have lots of patents because over time they have developed many things. They're not using them. They're using the latest one that they make lots of money with, but others they have almost forgotten. They don't even know that they exist, but it's locked up. I keep saying that's a shame because this is a human knowledge. You locked it up someplace. And you're not using either. You're not using them. But you don't let anybody else use them. I said, that's not fair. Knowledge belongs to all human beings. If you're not using it, then you have to share it somebody so that they may have good use for it. For your company, this patent may not have use. But other people, human beings, they have a lot more use. So what I'm suggesting to them, and some are responding very positively, I'm very happy to hear that, say that. Suggestion is I will create a social business of managing unused patents, patents that you are not using anymore. You, company, will give me those patents for managing those patents with conditions. Conditions is these patents will be used only for social business, so that you don't make money out of it. You don't become a computer with, you don't make money out of my own intellectual property, right? But you can use it if it helps human being. And then I said, before I give it to anybody for using it for social business, I'll get your permission, whether you agree or not. If you don't agree, I will not do it. But if you agree, I'll do that. So that make a pool of these patent rights and make it available to people. This is not done. I said this should be done because you may not need it in your company. Somebody can need it. Your country may not need it because you have already gone up the ladder. And there are other countries who are starting new. They may be needing this for their use to move up. So this is the way how people try to protect this. And in the process, people ask me, why do you try to take away personal profit from business? Because personal profit is the incentive which makes the whole world move. Otherwise, the whole world will just stand still. It doesn't move because there is no incentive left. I said, I agree completely that personal profit is a great incentive, but I disagree very seriously when you say personal profit is the only incentive. There are many other incentives in the world. And the way I try to present it, I say that making money is happiness. That's why it's an incentive. Making money is a happiness. Making other people happy is a super happiness. So that's incentive too. So don't think that you are sacrificing yourself. You are gaining something. So I said, why don't you do it now? Because you are not familiar with it. You did not read it in your textbooks. Textbooks never told you how happy it is to be able to solve people's problem. And you feel tremendously satisfied that you have done something in your lifetime. If we had included that there are two kinds of businesses in the world, one is business to make money, another is business to solve problems, young people know what is a business to make money, what is a business to solve problem, and then they will debate among themselves and also ask himself or herself, when I grow up, what should I do? Should I have a social business? Should I work with a social business? Or should I work with a profit-making business? Or should I create a profit-making business? These questions are not there because there's only one kind of business today. So everybody is moving in the same direction. So capitalism, which prides itself about giving people option, when it comes to business, they do not give any option. There's only one kind. So I said, I'm giving option. You choose. I'm not forcing anybody. I'm not a religious leader giving instruction to people. No, I'm just saying there are two kinds of businesses, and whatever you want, you do that. But you must understand what is one and what is the other one. So those are the decisions. And that, once we introduce it in our mind, gradually the things start happening because our creative power goes out in the world and start addressing this problem and solving them. And we feel tall as a human being. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I myself have lots of questions. I would like just to tell everyone that I myself trusted that women part of the humankind is more trustworthy than the men.
Now I would like to turn the floor to Galia Zoldybayev from the Ministry of Regional Development. She's the head of the Committee on Development of Entrepreneurship there. Please, 7 minutes. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, participants of the Astana Economic Forum, please allow me to welcome you all on behalf of the Entrepreneurship Development Committee at the Ministry of Regional Development of the Republic of Kazakhstan. The committee is the government agency that is responsible for implementing development and support programs for small and medium enterprise, such programs as the Roadmap for the Business 2020, the second area of the Employment Program 2020, Roadmap Program, and also Company Towns Development Program. And so our task is development, providing government support specifically for small and medium enterprises. Of course, holding such a panel discussion as this, specifically on the subject of the development of entrepreneurship, small and medium enterprise, within the framework of the Astana Economic Forum, has already become a tradition for us, which makes us glad. And the goal of making Kazakhstan part of the top 30 most competitive, most developed countries of the world means that by 2050, the share of SMEs should be at least 50% in the economy. And many of you know that currently this level is at about 20%. But anyway, I should probably cite some statistics. I'd like to say that it's no secret to anyone that in our country currently about 900,000 SMEs operate in the country in total. And basically that means that over 2.6 million people are involved in the SME sector, and the output of that sector over the last 4 years grew by a factor of 1.6, so by over 9 trillion tenge. In order to make the work more active in the processing industries, to develop entrepreneurship in these industries, literally earlier this year, the President of Kazakhstan, Mr. Nursultan Nazarbayev, has made a decision to allocate funds from the National Fund in the amount of over 1 trillion tenge for purposes including the development of small and medium enterprise. Such measures are necessary to be provided to the small and medium enterprise sector, and we think that such measures will support the increase of the share of SMEs by at least 6 to 7%. And the funds, first and foremost, will go to the SMEs in the processing industries. I'd like to focus a little more on this line of work. 13 commercial banks have been selected for the implementation of this program. They have received 100 billion tenge this year already to specifically lend to SME projects in the processing industries. In accordance with the agreement between the Byterek Holding company, and these banks, the funds within 6 months are going to go to the entrepreneurs in the SME sector, and active work is already being done in this area today. There are a lot of applications, and there are already some results. Indeed, it must be noted that out of those funds, at least 25% is going to go to provide financing to the entrepreneurs in the food industry, which is very important. It must be also noted that 100 billion tenge this year is just a first tranche. If the funds are used effectively, of course, the next tranche will follow next year. Of course, we expect a lot of results from these specific activities, from this specific form of support, since the small medium enterprise sector in Kazakhstan has been waiting for this move from the government for a very long time. So finally, the time has come. One might say the need is there, and we think that the effectiveness will show very soon. And in accordance with the World Bank's doing business rating, Kazakhstan is in the group of the country with the most favorable conditions for doing business. And if you look at the media coverage, the media reports, when you inquire on the matters that are part of the doing business survey in terms of establishing favorable conditions for doing business in Kazakhstan, it's a pleasure to see that a lot of comparisons are made to other countries. When Kazakhstan is called a leading country, a country that establishes favorable conditions for doing business. And Mr. Shumangarin earlier today has already touched upon some of the specifics in terms of establishing those favorable conditions, which includes a revolutionary decision by our president, the presidential decree on radical measures to establish favorable conditions for SMEs. Of course, we can talk a lot about this presidential decree, and the first step, which was prompt, is the declaration of the moratorium for planned and unplanned audits or inspections of small and medium enterprises. And the Committee for Entrepreneurship Development, as I've mentioned, our agency is responsible for the implementation of those steps. And we already have instances when government agencies were prevented from inspections or audits of small and medium enterprises. So the SMEs are well developed now. They are aware of their rights, which makes one happy as well, because they contact themselves, they ask about how such actions could be prevented, and acting together with these SMEs, we are taking specific steps to address those situations. Overall, I'd like to note that today the government has taken all necessary measures to ensure that there's growth of entrepreneurship in the country as part of establishing the favorable conditions for doing business. An important task in this area is to establish a single business infrastructure to provide services, provide consulting services among others, and to improve the competence level of the entrepreneurs. In this area, there is unprecedented work being currently done in the country to establish a systematic approach to improve the level of competence, and that is establishing the service centers for entrepreneurs in the regional centers, in the company towns, single industry towns. And these entities are very actively operating today already. Their services are in high demand, and not only SMEs go to those centers, but even companies that are large businesses. Company towns, single industry towns are, what is that? This is second tier of cities or towns in terms of their development. Cities with a population of up to 50,000 people. Large cities are oblast centers, Semey, Turkestan, large cities like that. And this work will continue this year. And we are radically reducing the time that it takes to establish such consulting centers, support centers, And first and foremost, the task is to provide information on various measures of government support to the SME sector, to bring this all the way down to the district centers. We have over 150 such district centers, rural areas, and we also have small towns, about 60 small towns or cities, about 61 of those. And we're already establishing 161 centers of support for entrepreneurs in the district centers. This is one of the systematic efforts of the Entrepreneurship Development Committee, along with the DAMU fund, to develop the SME sector. So these comprehensive measures to provide both financial and non-financial forms of support establishes favorable conditions for establishing small and medium enterprises. I'd also like to note, of course, one would like to see the information here. The poster, we always make sure it's available on the establishment of a single web portal, an internet website for the entrepreneurs of Kazakhstan, to give them information not only about the forms of government support for the SMEs, but also to provide a forum for discussion of the various draft laws, for example, and regulations. In other words, to provide a platform to allow the entrepreneurs to communicate with the government by electronic means. This is also an important step, and currently we have over 300,000 visitors every month on this web portal, and we also establish a specific set of conditions for startups, giving them basic information about how to establish their business, what are the permits required. From the time that they establish their business, we address that, to conducting the business, the permits that may be required, and the places one needs to go to. People and the organizations need to be contacted in order to ensure the sales of one's products. These are examples of the information available in the portal. Thank you. Of course, it would be best if there are no permits. I would like to turn the floor now to Jonathan Orthmans, who represents the Global Entrepreneurship Week. I would like to also say that the Kaufman Foundation is the biggest private organization with a mission to support entrepreneurship, the biggest private organization of this kind in the world. Да, можете туда пойти, пожалуйста.
Okay, I have to stand up because I have always too much energy when I talk about this topic. So forgive me if I come to the podium for just a minute. And yes,
limit your energy to 7 minutes, okay?
So I'll take off my jacket too. It's a great honor for me actually to share some of the things I'm learning in the presence of Muhammad Yunus, because we have reached many of the same conclusions, but coming at this from a different place. First of all, what's happened in entrepreneurship around the world, and let me tell you, I've had 2 startups and 2 exits. That means I've started and sold 2 companies. I'm an economist by training. I've spent the last 6 years in over 140 countries studying what's happening in their entrepreneurial ecosystem. And here's what I found. The most exciting news is that entrepreneurship is no longer something of narrow commercial significance. It's much more profound than we ever thought. It represents the possibility of human endeavor for the benefit of all. And here's what I see with this global view. It's not so much that I see a world of people, Mr. Yunus, starting social enterprises. I see a completely different set of values among the people who are entering the field of entrepreneurship. They're not the people that wanted to go to business school. They're people who come to it out of curiosity. They're much more generous. They share. They're globally connected because of technology. They have a sense of fun, and they don't care about doing this unless they can achieve something significant that improves the lives of others. And yes, they are not apologetic if they make money while doing it. So they are the doing good and doing well generation. This gentleman I met in Honduras, and it turned out that he was motivated to become an entrepreneur because he saw so many people picking trash out of a trash heap, and he was appalled at this as a tourist. He ended up starting a company in Honduras that employs now 400 people making wooden toys. But he's perfectly happy about the fact that he's also making a living for himself. So what's also happened, which makes it important for young people in Kazakhstan and in any country of the world with high rates of youth unemployment, is that it's now easier than ever, much easier than when I was 19 years old and I started my first company, to become an entrepreneur. I've listed some things on this slide. We don't have time to walk through them, but I came up with 10 things that are now easier for someone today than when I first started, ranging from the fact that you don't need to hire a marketing firm, you've got social media, ranging from the fact that if you want to go into advertising, you don't have to go to New York and be on Madison Avenue, ranging from the fact that people now accept doing things differently more often as consumers than they used to. You don't have to come from a certain family or school or pedigree anymore, on and on and on. Anybody with an idea and a passion to birth something new can become an entrepreneur. What you need is often what unemployed young people have, is time. That's the only expensive thing that people like us don't have. So what is the science that's occurring right now? What we see is this: trends towards teams. This is a field now that's about people experimenting as teams of individuals who go through a scientific process of testing an idea, taking the results, feeding that back into the idea, and only when they've done that, considering the task of raising money to scale that as a scalable company. It is not about starting a business, and it's not about the logistical process of being in business. It's about the idea and solving a problem, and therefore, you never fail. If this is an experiment, you simply learn all the time. And even if you never become an entrepreneur, you're a better employee. And even if you fail, quote, at a business, you can succeed later on if you recycle the idea or recycle the team. And there's amazing things happening in the world that makes opportunities appear now from everywhere. We have a society that says that it's now one where we've got a sharing economy, where there's an interest in entrepreneurs learning how to make new things, not just tech entrepreneurs. And we have a society now which is all about communities. You know, when I gather, as we did in Moscow and we do every year, delegations from the 150 countries that we work in now with entrepreneurs, and I put them all in one room, I tell them you could take a different passport and you would fit right back in to wherever that passport took you. I now look at the world as a flat world of startup communities. I don't see national boundaries. They're porous to innovation, and they're certainly porous to the entrepreneurial culture. This means that it doesn't matter where you live or what language you speak, you come together as one cluster of people interested in birthing the new. In Moscow, when we gathered 6,500 people from 153 countries who are leading the entrepreneurial ecosystems, on that very same day, the United States and Russia were in an awful dispute over Crimea. You know, we only lost 9 people didn't come to that conference out of 6,500 because those entrepreneurs saw themselves first and foremost as global entrepreneurs and secondary as citizens of any particular nation. I'll try to conclude with a few comments about what does government do about it. We were asked to comment on this. The most important thing is collect better data about what works and what doesn't work in supporting entrepreneurs. Our field to this date has been populated by very poor analysis. We've had mediocre economists involved in measuring entrepreneurial capitalism. And we need to treat this as the center pin of economic growth and job creation strategy. It's not on the side of it. That means we need to have our best economists. It means, as President Obama has done, that this is not something, entrepreneurship in the United States is not done in the Small Business Administration or the Department of Commerce. It's done in the White House. There is White House, West Wing, startup advisor to the president, and we've now collected 67 nations that are now doing the same thing. And the reason is this, that all of the net new jobs in 37 economies that we've tracked are coming from firms under 5 years old. That means, as I said a few minutes earlier to some of you in the press conference, that we've been looking at this in the eyes of big business and SMEs. And I don't want to say anything against SMEs. I simply want to say to policymakers, think new and old firms. Old firms recede over time. They lose their dynamism, especially if they don't engage with new firms. New firms not only create the new jobs, they bring the new innovations, they bring the new energy. What government should be attempting to do is experiment with which policy levers. We just did a big conference with, funny enough, the Prime Minister of Malaysia on just this very topic. What are the right policy levers, regulatory and otherwise, governments can do that make it easy for those young firms? Think of them as your children. Their first 5 years, what do? We try to make their life as easy as possible. So governments are saying, what's our strategy? They're not making plans. They're saying we set the rules and incentives, but we don't necessarily know how to start companies ourselves. So why are we designing the programs? And I'm also witnessing governments now willing to follow policymakers and university leaders and corporate people are saying, you know what, let's all sit around the table with these young entrepreneurs, but let's let them lead the startup community. We need to be in partnership with them. They may look more cool than we are. They dress casually. They've got nicer jeans and sneakers. And they certainly sound more interesting, but the reality is they need us as much as we need them. And I don't care whether I'm in the Philippines or whether I'm in Nairobi or wherever I work in the world, there are vibrant startup communities, and they should be all over Kazakhstan.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much indeed.
I would highly recommend. I would highly recommend the mood to paste these presentations on the website. And from Jonathan's presentation, there is on the website, there is a link to the return to business creation. Because this research of the Kaufman Foundation, return to business creation, has something in common with what Mr. Yunus was talking about, sharing the copyrights, because new companies are very much into sharing everything. It's very important. Now, without further ado, I pass the floor to my left, my old friend, Ken Scone. Okay, thank you. Are you speaking from over there? So, yeah. But you have 7 minutes.
Ah, okay, yes. And it's, where do you? Well, what could be better than to start off with a program on enterprise by telling you of an enterprise that I'm collaborating with here with Ludmila Melnikova and Pavel Koktovich.
Встаньте, пожалуйста, это Людмила Мельникова.
I represent an organization that I represent an organization called the ISIL. They hold conferences around the world, but they also publish books, and one of them is about teaching entrepreneurship and about markets to young people. And Ludmila and Pavel have been instrumental in putting this on radio and television here in Kazakhstan with theater. I just a couple days ago went to the school here, 31, where they did a performance of this show teaching young people about markets and market economics. So you're welcome to these conferences. But let me first start off by mentioning everyone knows what a sieve is. It's something to sort out, the kinds of things you're looking for, things of value. Well, suppose there was a sieve for entrepreneurship, something that could really sort out the best and the brightest, the most creative minds. Well, what would you be looking for? Numerous people have come up with lists about what are the characteristics of good entrepreneurship. And Bill Zinke has created this list of characteristics of good entrepreneurship, and it occurred to me that all of these characteristics are perfect matches for migrants, people who move across borders, people who leave behind everything that's familiar to them and go to completely unfamiliar territory, potentially hostile, different language, different culture, different customs, to create new opportunities and to create wealth in new regions out of their comfort zone. And the interesting thing about this is that many people have come to the same conclusion, says Adrian Furman. Why do foreigners make better entrepreneurs? Well, they're the first generation migrants start up businesses at twice the rate of Native Americans, and even more so than second generation migrants. I ask my students and every audience that I go to, I ask people, okay, suppose that you're an entrepreneur. And you have two people standing in front of you you're an employer, and you have two people standing in front of you looking for a job. One of them is an immigrant, and the other is a Native American citizen. And that's the only thing that you know about them. Which one would you expect to be the harder worker? Every time, over and over and over again, people say, well, the immigrant's the harder worker. It's a self-selective process. They've already taken the great journey to go to another place and take all the risks to see what they can find. And they are out of their comfort zone in an exotic place. Now, why is this? It's the sort of people who migrate are the ones who have a different pattern of motivation, of abilities and adjustment. They are the hungrier, more risk-taking, and more hardy than the people who have been more comfortable back at home, who stayed and were, well, perhaps less adventurous. Another man, Stuart Anderson, says that immigrant entrepreneurs are the heroes of the market-based economy, driving innovation and job creation. He has concluded that immigrants started 33% of U.S. venture-backed public companies between 2006 and 12. Now, these are very familiar names: Google, Intel, eBay, Facebook. They're all ones that had immigrants who helped start up the businesses and make them into a $900 billion market capitalization worldwide. They employ 600,000 people. And immigrants or foreigners coming to the United States are taking 2/3 of the PhDs in engineering, in electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering, and civil engineering. Sadly, my country then says, well, you're not welcome now, and they send many of them back home, and they put up high restrictive barriers on the entrance of these people into the United States. Well, that's a very, very tragic thing for the United States, and it's not so good for people in other countries. They see them as different and a threat. Well, actually, what we ought to realize is that courage welcomes competition. Fear rejects competition. Courage embraces the newcomer. Fear rejects the newcomer. Courage champions liberty. Fear rejects liberty. Around the world, there are a lot of increasing number of people who are moving from one place to another. More so than ever before, people are living in countries other than where they were born. But the percentage of the world population is about the same. What's different is that as people are moving, they are very, very generous when they send money back home in remittances to the people that were their friends and their relatives. Now, the amount of money that is being sent back home is 3 times the total amount of overseas development assistance around the world. It amounts for 8% of the GDP of low-income countries. It's an extremely valuable source of income because people are taking their own hard-earned income and giving it to people that they know and can benefit by it, rather than a faceless bureaucrat taking money from people they don't know and giving to other people that they don't know. The movement of people within a country, as was demonstrated in China, and across international borders, as was demonstrated in Hong Kong, allows tremendous opportunities for economic growth and potential. So I refer you to the studies of Ortega and Perry, who said openness to knowledge, skills, and ideas from the rest of the world may be one of the most important engines of economic growth and technological advancement for a country. We show that openness to immigration is a strong predictor of its income per person and works much better for immigration than for trade. Julian Simon, the great economist, argued that the people who are the greatest resource of a country and the fast track to prosperity is end the people quotas, let people be free to produce. It is practical, it is humanitarian, and above all, it is ethical to treat other people as we would want them to treat us if we were in their shoes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sure that what is true for America is true also for Bulgaria, because when I did the research on the migration and refugees to Bulgaria from Afghanistan or Syria, completely different culture, of course, they were setting businesses in Bulgaria. And I believe, what is true for the PhDs in general is true for people I know from Kazakhstan who made their PhDs in North America, including my own students, are making their PhDs in the States. Now we have Tuna Sahin. I represented him in the press conference as Lezati Brakimova in Turkey. He will tell us about a similar organization in Turkey. Although the countries are very different, but I think the experience is very similar, and you can learn from each other.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Also, I would like to thank Kazakhstan Republic and especially DAMO for their kind invitation for us and their great hospitality for this very important forum. And we have the opportunity to exchange our experiences. I'm from COSGAP, in fact, DAMO of Turkey, SME support organization of Turkey, and our main aim is to increase the competitiveness of SMEs inside Turkey and increase their share in the global economy. So let's start. What are the SMEs in Turkey? What are their share? I just gave some figures in the press conference, but I would like to extend some more. Almost 3 million SMEs are existing inside Turkey, and when we take into consideration all of the enterprises, more than 99% of them are SMEs.